I'm here with Anton Krieger, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And you're the president of the COPO?
Well, it's
Or,
kind of a coalition, so we don't really have any elected offices yet, but that's something we're considering in order to get funding from student government right now.
okay, cool.
Mhm.
So can you just like kind of begin by telling me about what it is?
Yeah, so COPO stands for Coalition of Progressive Organizations, and it's an idea that I kind of came up with at the beginning of the semester when I became CSU Democrats president. I said, you know what, we need more collaboration between the different orgs that have like-minded ideals. So I reached out to a bunch of the progressive organizations on campus, like QSA, SAVE, which is the vegan group, SEM, which is Student Environmentalist Movement, etc. And we got together, we started meeting on Fridays, and right now we're kind of brainstorming and overlapping our organizations just to get our own group members to get comfortable with one another, and hopefully down the road we can progress forward in changing the university in that way. So,
Cool.
yeah.
So when you started it, how did you like decide which organizations you would reach out to?
I really reached out to a bunch of organizations. I reached out to cultural organizations, people who may be considered minorities, people who I felt like had principles of the Democratic Party, me being the president of the CSU Democrats. I figured these are people that we can work with to help change, the university in Cleveland. So mainly went off of Democratic principles.
Okay, that's cool. So how did you come up with like the original idea of it? I mean, you kind of explained that, but can you like
Yeah,
go
so
down?
the original idea, I've always kind of seen the left or like left-leaning politics. I feel like we're this circular firing squad sometimes. We always are at each other's throats, and we can't move things forward like we all want to see because we're always at one another. I feel like by starting at the basic level of activism, student organizations, I feel like we can have much more of an understanding for one another, and then be able to empathize with one another as people of the left, and then be able to kind of show that to the rest of the university, people who may not be as involved, or also people who are more conservative, may lean more with an organization like Turning Point or the College Republicans. So.
Okay, cool. So can you kind of explain like why, like what's the purpose of it? Like, is it like to collaborate, like, and
Yeah, so I feel like for our mission statement, it's more or less to really educate the student body as a whole. I think we're targeting people with more democratic and progressive values, but we want to really educate the student body as a whole, and create a safe space for anybody on the left to be able to come and hear ideas. Secondly, we want to create an environment for activism. So that includes like networking with people around Cuyahoga County, around Ohio, with other college organizations. That's something we really plan on hitting hard on starting in the fall. Something that COPO has talked about is actually trying to implement more gender-neutral bathrooms around the university. So that's a project we're wanting to take up in addition to just educating.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what are like so far? What are some of the like activities that you've done?
So COPO probably started just before the midpoint of the semester. So being such a young coalition, we've only really had one, what we called our COPO kickback, which was just a hangout to expose our members to one another. So we just kind of booked out a room. It was under the CSU Democrats name because we didn't have we don't have an official COPO org yet. But I think we got about 30 people. I think we made it a vegan potluck to, make options for Save, the student organization, and I felt like it was a pretty good showing, and I felt like it was a fun first event. We learned about things that we can improve on, and in the fall, when we kick off our semester in the fall, hopefully we can build off of what we had there. So
Yeah. Cool.
yeah.
So do you hope to have more of those in the future then?
Yeah, absolutely. So COPO is definitely looking to have just activities where people on the left can kind of have fun, have overlap, just get to know each other, while also providing that safe space. We meet every Friday, the leadership of each organization that's a part of COPO. So we try pretty hard to do the planning there on Fridays, but I guess it all circles back to starting off in the fall, because this was really kind of a semester to get the ball rolling, more or less.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you hope to like add more groups to it
Yeah.
in the future?
Yeah, actually, that's something that we're actively working to do now. I would love to see more groups that are more cultural groups, whether it's like one of the Indian organizations, or maybe it's the Latinos, or the different African American organizations. Like, we want to really diversify COPO. That's something that the leadership has kind of pointed out. Most of us are white right now, but we're trying to really diversify COPO as it is, because most of the groups right now, we have a lot of white people. So that's an issue we're trying to address right now in COPO, and we really hope to see more organizations come out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So do you hope to make it like an official campus organization then next semester?
So there's definitely talk about that. Last meeting we had just last week, we talked about making an official student organization so we can receive funding from the student government body. I think our meeting next week on May 3rd, we're probably going to do an election of officers, just so we can really open up an official OrgSync account or whatever system they're switching to, so we can start getting that money. Hopefully we can even do almost like a Magnus Fest, the beginning of fall, where we can advertise all of our organizations in the student center, or something of that nature. So
Yeah.
election of officers is hopefully coming up here. Yeah.
Cool. So do you hope to have like a table at Magnus Fest and stuff like that maybe? Or...
Yeah, so ideally, COPO would kind of be like the groundwork for all of our organizations. I think we want to collectively work together to promote one another's ideas and just see each student organization as our own niche in the greater picture of trying to progress democratic and progressive ideals, forward in the university. So I think COPO would probably have an individual table at what we would call like this COPO Magnus Fest, but in addition to that, have each individual organization there as well, also promoting it, so people can get a range of what all of these student orgs are, as well as what COPO is in full. I'm really excited, to be honest. This fall, I don't want to give too much away, but COPO is going to try and do a haunted house event in Mather Mansion for Halloween. So I'm really excited for some of the things that COPO has going on, kicking around in our brains, and hopefully the university will see us more in the fall, and I really appreciate the time.